What was medieval Irish dress? If you are curious about what people wore in Ireland during medieval times, you are in for an interesting journey. Medieval Irish dress was influenced by the environment, available materials, and social status. The clothing choices reflected the practical needs of life in Ireland's climate. The primary materials used for clothing were wool and linen. Wool was especially popular because it was warm, affordable, and easy to work with. Linen was also used, particularly for lighter garments. For men, the main garment was the léine. This long tunic reached down to the ankles but could be hitched up to knee length for easier movement. Over the léine, men wore a brat, which was a heavy woolen cloak or mantle. The brat was fastened with a brooch or pin, and its color and length often indicated a person's social standing. In colder weather, men might wear a coat-a-more, a thick wool greatcoat, underneath the brat for added warmth. Men also wore truas, which were close-fitting trousers. Sometimes they paired these with the léine or a shorter shirt called a léine gear. On their feet, both men and women wore brogues, which were simple leather shoes. Women's clothing had similarities to men's but also featured distinct styles. Women wore the léine as well, but they typically kept it long. They gathered it at the waist with a belt known as a cryos. Like men, women also wore the brat over their dress. By the 15th century, women's dresses became longer and were often made of wool, sometimes adorned with ribbons and accessories. Married women covered their hair with a headdress called a lincool, while unmarried women wore their hair in braids. Another notable item was the ionar, a type of jacket that was often pleated and sometimes richly decorated with embroidery. This jacket was worn over the léine and under the brat. Interestingly, kilts and some other garments associated with Scottish or later Irish fashion were not part of traditional medieval Irish dress. The true historical garments were the léine, brat, and ionar. If you are traveling in Ireland today and want to see these styles, you can find them depicted in historical sites, museums, or cultural festivals. Understanding the practical reasons behind these garments, like how the brat served as both a cloak and blanket, helps you appreciate how people adapted to their environment during the medieval period. Seeing these garments in context can make your visit to historic locations even more meaningful and provide a clearer picture of daily life in medieval Ireland.